Welcome to the Asset Mindset Podcast, where we don't wait for opportunities, we create them. I'm your host, Daniel Fielding. In each episode, we dive deep into the mindset, habits, and mission-driven thinking that turn everyday people to high performers. This isn't just about motivation, it's about transformation. Today's special guest, Denny Giamazzo. Welcome to the Asset Mindset.
Yeah, brother. I appreciate you having me on. I've been following up on the things that you've been doing. I've checked out your page. I've checked your content. It's good stuff, man. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And I like having people with the asset mindset philosophy. They may deem it a little something else, but when you're doing positive work, focusing on mindset, habits, taking ownership of your life, which so many people don't. All right, Denny, so let's get started here. When was the first time you really realized that your mindset was more in control of your life circumstances? Or when did you have that epiphany where having a positive mindset or taking ownership of your life changed you? When did you realize that?
I think for me, it happened at a very young age. I was exposed to a lot of different things as a kid between, seeing my mom abusing drugs and, kind of being abandoned and left in the house for several hours at a time and days actually by myself. And just seeing violence and drug use and different things, that really exposed me to what I knew I didn't want and what didn't feel right. Um, I know as a kid, you don't really know a lot that's going on, but I never allowed that type of thing to feel normal to me. So I think at a very young age, I was able to identify, what didn't seem right, what didn't feel right. And, I knew very early on that I didn't want to be like the people that I was seeing as examples in my life. And I just always kind of had this mindset that I can be better, I can be different. Um, and just, again, it was early on where I just had that shift in how I thought about just the world. And I kind of knew that even at a young age that it was kind of going to be on me to make things happen in life. I didn't have the family who had the resources to pay for college or send me here or there or, provide me all these things or give me all these things and these advantages. I knew very early on that I was going to have to, do it myself. And obviously it takes a particular mindset to embrace that and then, take actions on those objectives to kind of get the things you want.
So how old were you when all this was going on, where you started to have that realization that you were on your own?
Very early. I mean, I like I said, I was 3, 4, 5 when my mom was a prostitute and she was leaving me alone in our 1-bedroom apartment by myself. And yeah, I was alone for several days at a time, and I ate what we had, which was, maybe peanut butter in a jar. I can remember scraping peanut butter with my hands to eat and just eating crackers. And, when I needed water, I would just drag the chair to the sink and drink out of the faucet.
Man, that's tough on a young kid. I mean, we all have tough experiences, but to start that young, that's hard, man. And good on you for changing, I guess, the pattern, because a lot of people get stuck in that poverty or drug pattern or addiction pattern, because I've seen that, in my life too, with people around me and different hardships. So I want to kind of get into your head too. So this, you realize this, you're growing up, you're on your own in a lot of ways, aspects. What did you do that started to make a difference in your life? Was it sports? Was it community school? Like what did you focus your energy on?
Yeah, as a kid, for me, it was all about sports. I was always hyper competitive. I was always, I hated losing. I always wanted to win. I always played, baseball, basketball. But, I always embraced kind of the sports culture of, being part of a team. And, my biggest idol growing up was Michael Jordan. And, obviously the way he played basketball was incredible, but the things he would say about like just having to be mentally tough and, fight through adversity and, from a sports context, I was able to translate that into like a life context to being like, okay, well, this might work about, never quitting, never giving up, hitting a hard shot or missing a shot and then succeeding. That might all play out in the context of sports, but in the context of life, it's the same thing, just different tasks, right? I might not be shooting a jump shot. I might just be going to school and trying to get good grades or whatever. Not that I got the best grades, but I just always had, that type of a mentality that, if I just at least stayed on the right path and just, didn't go with the crowd and didn't, like I've never tried a drug and I've always been afraid to, hang around with the wrong people and get with the wrong crowd. And I always knew what the consequences of poor actions looked like because my mom was a prostitute who eventually died from AIDS. Um, so I knew that if I didn't make the right decisions and, surround myself with the right people, that I could potentially end up in bad places.
Oh, that's so important. And I share that in my philosophy with the asset mindset is surround yourself with good people. You need to be in positive environments. And if you're in a negative environment, it can be really toxic and it's going to suck you down and you got to fight that much harder to get out. So if you've never, done drugs or things like that, which is awesome and commendable because a lot of people that grow up in and around that, they do
Yeah.
look for an escape and it will turn into an addiction or whatnot. So what did you use for an
Hmm.
escape from that
Yeah, I mean,
harsh
as a
world?
kid, I didn't really use much. I think I would just go outside. I played a lot of basketball, shot around a lot. I spent a lot of time alone, um, just outside. I would just go outside, go for walks. I'd go ride my bike several miles and just do that. I'd go in the woods by myself and just, break sticks and hit trees with sticks and, climb trees and just do whatever. I just spent a lot of time outside and just within myself and thinking a lot. And, um, then as I got older, I certainly did use alcohol as an escape during certain moments. Whether it was in college, thinking about like how I grew up and, kind of feeling sorry for myself at times and wondering, what my purpose was and different things. Then again, when I got back from Afghanistan, I struggled with alcohol for about 8 months or so. Um, and then I'd say the last time I struggled with alcohol was when I got divorced about 4 years ago. Same thing. So I've definitely used that as an escape. But having healthier habits like the gym and going for walks with my dog and other things, I try to lean on those a lot more now. I don't drink nearly as much um and that, but those have kind of been my escapes to kind of reassess and recalibrate like where I'm at in life and where I want to be.
Well, that's great. So let's talk about these habits then and what good habits you have that you've seen actual positive results from by being like, wow, doing this is changing my life. What do you have that you can
For
share with
me,
the
there's
listeners?
two that I do every single day now that are, imperative to me just staying on track and, kind of getting what I want out of life. And that's I go to the gym 6 days a week, sometimes seven. Um, that's a non-negotiable. 5 days is a non-negotiable. I try to get six. If my body feels good, I'll do seven. I mean, I just keep going until I can't anymore. So I rest when my body tells me to. I don't have a rest day. I don't believe in that. Um, So that's one. And then two, I read the Bible. I read different parts of the Bible every single day. And um, I'm not the most religious guy in the world, but I am a believer, and it is something that's very important to me.
So with being into the gym and all that, do you have any special diets or things you avoid or that you do eat or what do you do for nutrition? Because
That's
that's a big
huge. Yeah,
part of it, obviously.
that's huge. That's the biggest part probably. And I have a buddy he's actually a retired Green Beret also. He does all of my programming. He puts that together. He does all of my nutrition. His name's Terry Wilson. Um, so he's become a good friend of mine over the last year or so. And so he puts together all my programming. He does, tells me what to eat. And so I do that, but it's a lot of just protein. So chicken, beef, steak, ground beef, um, and then rice again, protein shakes, bars. So I try to take in as much protein every day as I can, which is usually around 250 grams, and then moderate carbs, and then low fat. That's it. That's the toughest part though, is because I love food. I'm Italian.
Yeah, it can be hard. I've been doing the carnivore diet for
No
2
kidding. How do
years
you
now,
like that?
so I get what you're honestly, I love it, and I just recently started fasting, and, let me tell you, the fasting, it was good, I liked it, I did intermediate, fasting, and all of a sudden, I was like, "You know what?" Somebody actually came on the show and was like, "Oh, you gotta try a 7-day if you've done it." And I'm like, "Man, 7 days without eating." And I went 7 days, and I gotta tell you, I felt the best I've felt in a long time. Whatever it does with the stem cells, autophagy, HGH, all those things that happen metabolically when you're in a fast that's over 72 hours and your body starts getting in that transition spot, man, incredible. Inflammation, my shoulder wasn't hurting as much, my back's not hurting as much. Blown away. I was out on day 6. I'm building a retaining wall here in my house with large boulders in my track. I mean, I moved tons
So you
and
don't
tons
eat
of
for an
rocks,
entire week?
literally. Yeah, I did an
What do you
entire
do?
week,
Just
no
drink
food.
water?
And water and salt. Yep, I got a Redmond real salt. And believe it or not, after the first 24 hours, hunger is pretty much gone. And you're just burning your visceral fat and you
Interesting.
run. It's extreme ketosis. So it's like the keto diet, carnivore diet, which is
Yeah.
all ketosis. And then when you fast, you're just in that ketosis state, but your digestive system isn't working. So it allows the energy in your body to take care of other things instead of, oh, I got to
Mm,
take care of this food. So it's incredible the science behind it. And I also think it's incredible that it's, in the Bible they talk about fasting and
yep.
Jesus fasted and other but like so interesting now the science is catching up with
Yeah.
the Bible. So it's
I've done the
it's
intermittent
very
fasting
powerful
before, but
stuff.
I've never done anything as aggressive as that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was wild. I thought that I'd be sucking a lot
Mm,
more than I was. I was out taking care of my cows in the sunlight here in Nashville, heat 90 something degrees, and not
wow.
eating, and for days and moving those rocks and boulders. I mean, some of those boulders were probably 500 pounds. Like I got big
No
pry
shit.
bars on them, and I got a huge John Deere tractor
Hell
with a
yeah.
cab and everything to take care of the farm here. And yeah, it was wild. I never would have believed it. I would not have believed it at all. That my body would feel better. I'd have more energy and all the things. Now, obviously, you can't not eat forever,
Right.
but that 7-day, that cleanse and what it did, it was incredible. Because I'm turning 50 here soon. So I'm like, I got to be 50 and fit.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do? And how do I take care of myself? And, I got to get all the tests done. So I'm making sure hormones and things are balanced right. And I want to be 50 and fit. So we'll see. That's my new goal. I just shared
I
and I
love
put it
it.
out there for the world so you
I
can all
love
hold
it.
me accountable. But so yeah, let's get into some stuff now with when did you first get like a mentor or somebody? Because I know you're
Yeah.
working with Nick a little bit. I see you have the
Yeah.
machine hat on and whatnot. He's a great guy. I've had the privilege of being in his office down at the press and talking to him,
Yeah.
and
I'm going to have an
super
office there.
impressed. I'm not buddy buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be in there? All right. So you're going to meet my buddy
Okay.
Leo then too, because I do, the owner of that building I work with in his foundation, the
Nice.
Mian Foundation, quite a bit. And I've gone to Guatemala with them a couple times. Amazing people, good people. And that's why Nick's in there and
Yeah.
you surround yourself
Yeah.
with good people. So you'll be in there. You'll actually be driving
No
by my
kidding.
house on a
I
regular
texted
basis.
him
So I don't
a
know.
couple weeks ago when I signed the lease, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'll get an office ready for you." I was like, "All right, cool."
Nice. Very cool. That's
Yeah.
good stuff, man. You're going
Yeah,
to be in
man.
my neck of the woods, so we'll definitely have to get together. There's a lot of good things happening here, and I love what George is doing, Nick's doing, you're doing, and that's
I
why
love it.
you're on here. Because you also have a positive mindset. Dean, you having the asset mindset as well, because you're like wired for action, your habits, trying to be positive in the world and help people. So, when did you get this desire to help people?
Man. Well, I think it's been there for a long time. I mean, I think it's one of the things that, ultimately drove me into service. But yeah, I mean, I've always had just like a soft spot for people who might just be less fortunate than me or might just need to be pulled out of a dark place. because I've been in obviously very dark places, and there were many times where I pulled myself out, and it would have been great to have, somebody like myself or like Nick or like yourself or George or whoever to be there to lean on or to reference when times are difficult. Like I said, as a kid, I would seek out Michael Jordan videos just to see what I could watch of his that might just light a spark for me and something I could relate to. And it didn't usually take very long. I loved his stuff, and I love the way his mentality and that competitive mindset that he had. I just thought was just unbreakable. And I always figured if I could harness that, even just 50% of that I'd be pretty good at the things that I attempt in this life, right? I could be pretty successful if I could just get half of that competitive spirit and um, that killer instinct to just take action and go after what it is that I want. Um, but a few years ago, almost 2 years ago now, I decided that I wanted to do a podcast and use that as kind of the vehicle to share my story with other people. And at that time, I was thinking about maybe writing a book, maybe not. I actually reached out to, who Andy Frisella is. So I reached out to
Yes.
him, and I would kind of, he was talking with me, he followed me on Instagram, and I was kind of telling him my ideas, maybe I want to do a podcast, maybe I want to just write a book or whatever. And he was very candid in his response. And he just said, oh
No,
yeah, he
not
goes, look,
Andy.
man, nobody knows who the fuck you are. So it doesn't really make sense to do a book. Do the podcast, build a following, then release a book later. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I've had the podcast now a year and a half, a little more than that. And I mean, it's been great. And I've kind of just used that as a tool to open up the discussion about a lot of different things, from fitness to trauma to tragedy to combat, to PTSD and mental health. Um, but yeah, man, I'm trying to be just a resource and to as many people as I possibly can through the podcast. Hopefully I can touch a lot of people with the book and I get a reach from that. But I'm also, you mentioned all the work that I do with Nick, but one of the things I do predominantly with Nick is I'm one of his speakers, his engagement speakers. So I go to different venues, I go to different places, and I speak to different entities about leadership and resilience. Those are kind of that's kind of my silo. And I did an engagement back in March with Team USA, and that was for Nick's company, and that went really well. But one of the things we say, not to get off topic, but one of the things we say often is, we're in the impact business. That's what we do. So that's really all we're trying to do, and really all I'm trying to do is have a positive impact on as many people as I possibly can, and just be a resource where I can and help as many people as possible. Because I know that there were plenty of times where I needed it and it wasn't available. And, you know, if I can help people, then, I think that's good work.
It is. It's great work, and you are having an impact, and that's why you're on here. And for everybody watching or listening, hit pause right now, and you need to go in the description and learn more about Denny and Be the Standard podcast. You'll find all the details there. Check him out, what he's doing, and share it with other people that need to hear it, because there's a lot of people making an impact right now that are changing things, that are taking the world by the balls and going out there and really making a difference. And Denny is one of them. Nick, George, others. We could go on and on. It's incredible, this awakening that I think is happening right now. People are getting sick of the victim mentality and, oh, woe is me. And people are getting hungry for more. And I think you're able to help them with that. And that's why you're on here now. But definitely give Denny a follow. And of course, give us a like and a follow as well, because it costs you nothing. It just
That's
helps
it.
the algorithm. This is a positive show. Denny's positive person on here. Let's do this. Get out there and spread positivity. And you can start by doing that now with a like and a share. So now that we're here in this moment in time, who do you think, looking back, was your first mentor and really I mean, I know you're
Mm,
talking Michael Jordan a lot, so maybe it's him. But in person, whether it was in the military, school, a sport or something, but somebody that you
yeah.
got to interact with that really
Yeah,
helped you.
no, and that one I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it because my first real mentor, somebody that I truly looked up to and admired and wanted to, replicate was my best friend Mike, who I do the podcast with. He's still in the Army National Guard in Massachusetts here. He's deployed right now to Djibouti, Africa. But he was my first squad leader, and then right before Afghanistan, I got promoted to be a team leader. So I was one of his team leaders when we were overseas together and worked directly for him. But I got to work for him for more than 3 years, 3, 4 years. He's just the best. Nobody sets the example better. Nobody lives their values better. He really is just a tremendous guy, and he was probably without a doubt my first mentor. He taught me how to lead. He taught me how to follow. He taught me just how to be a good soldier. And that's translated now into 15, 16 years of friendship that I'm grateful for.
Oh, that's amazing, brother. I'm glad you have him. So what were the characteristics and values that really stood out to you, or what should people be
Yeah,
looking
one of
for?
the things I always liked about him and respected about him was his command presence. He walked into a room, you knew it. He didn't have to say a word. He doesn't ever talk about his own accomplishments. He's very humble. He's very genuine in his intent to develop soldiers and make the people around him better. Um, he's I've never met anybody with more integrity than him. He just lives those values of honesty, integrity, um, and just the best guy I know. That's the best way I could put it. Literally the best guy I know. Best example. Has been a great friend, and just a tremendous leader again. So
That's great to have someone like that. So what do you think is rubbed off on you the most about him? Because
yeah,
you know how that works. You hang around with somebody, you pick up some of their
yeah,
characteristics. So
no, and that's a great question. It gives me it gives me a chance here to kind of reflect, right? I think when I first became one of his team leaders, at that point in his career, he was kind of an intense guy. He still had all those characteristics, but he was a little more intense than he is now. He's kind of settled down a little bit in his older age. Not that he's that old. Um, but I think initially, I kind of came out of the gate as a team leader, um, as a bulldog, right? Hyper aggressive.
mm,
I wouldn't say hyper aggressive, but I was pretty direct. I was pretty forward. I was basically mimicking a lot of that. And then almost at that very same point, he was kind of starting to do this a little bit and like, kind of harness his leadership skill set a little bit more and bring it down a little. And I was kind of doing this. And so at one point they were calling
mm,
me Mini Burns, like Mini Mike, because our leadership styles were just very similar. And that makes sense because I had been working for him for several years. Um, and I had leadership before him that was just terrible. So it was a breath of fresh air to work for a guy who was genuinely all about the soldiers and development. But um, if there's one thing I hope I took from him and was able to exemplify through my own example and my own leadership is that being humble and being genuine and giving everything I had to just leading and developing soldiers. I hope that rubbed off on the guys that work for me.
no, that's great. Because that's what it's all about, helping your fellow
Absolutely,
brothers, sisters in the
absolutely.
world,
And
giving
I think
back.
that's what's lost in the
And that
corporate world,
fits.
not to get off topic, but I think that's what's lost in the corporate world and outside of the military is, guys don't, live those same team first values or my guys first values. It's like, well, all the numbers don't look good. That's my guy's fault. It's not me, there's no accountability, in the corporate world. I've found generally speaking, but yeah, that's something I've always embraced is that as a leader, your guys come first, and their health and welfare and everything comes before your own.
Absolutely. And that's what real leadership is. And we learn that in the military. In the corporate world, they don't teach that. That's why they need guys like you, guys like me, guys like Nick, people that are going to come in
Yeah.
and be like, hey, listen, this is how you really lead. Just because you have the title of a boss doesn't mean you're the
Yeah.
leader. It could be the senior salesperson that's not the boss. He's not a
Yeah.
manager, district manager, or whatever in the corporate world. And they go to him because he's mature, he's level headed, he's a problem solver, he's not just barking orders or complaining. That is the real leadership that people need. You need to be there like, all right, how can I help you be better? What are you struggling with? Let me show you how. Or how many people give someone a task and they don't help them if they've never done that task before? Like, hey, this is what I need from you. You got to do this marketing thing. All right, give them some guidelines, give them left and right limits. Don't just expect someone to
Yeah.
read your mind. Don't micromanage. You want to teach people and then let them go.
Yeah, and something I've said in speaking engagements when I spoke to CEOs and business owners is there's a huge difference between a leader and a boss, right? A boss is going to sit there and use phrases like, do what I say and because I said so and, shit like that. When a leader, they don't use phrases like that. Leaders say, how can I help? How can I get in the trenches with you? What do you need from me to be better? That's what leaders do. We try to differentiate, you know, what a real leader means and what it means to just have a title. And I think that's what you see outside of the military and in the corporate structure more often than not is a lot of people with titles who couldn't, lead.
I see you wearing the
I
shirt,
am.
be the standard. Let's share that. What's that represent? Where's it coming from? How do you want people to
Yeah.
take and relate that?
Yeah.
Like,
So, be the standard. A lot of people think that it means that, you just have it all together. You're perfect. You set the standard in every aspect of your life and you're just good to go, right? You're on it. I like to say that that's not the case. I think being the standard is really just working towards the best version of yourself and having a process in place to fall back on in order to, reach whatever objective it is that you have. And if you're slipping in one area of your life, you have that process to, kind of fall back on to reinstate and reengage to move forward with the mission. And that's just generally being the best version of yourself that you can be.
so holding the standard of pushing forward and being the best you can, building
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
habits.
So, habits is the biggest thing, right? Setting standards for yourself, creating habits, and then executing on those things. And then lastly, holding yourself accountable to the previous three initiatives, right? You have to do all of those things in order to get where you want to be. And, whether it's, personal relationships or work or business or the gym or whatever, at some point you're going to fall off and you're going to take a step back or fall back. And it's going to be time to implement that process back into your daily routine and your regimen. Um, and that's what being the standard really is all about. And I got to give my buddy Mike credit for coming up with the name. When we decided to do the podcast together, we were trying to come up with, a name that made sense. And he texted me one day and I was like, yep, that's the name, man. You nailed it. So, but that's where that comes from. And yeah, that's kind of what we're about.
That's cool. And I do like that you acknowledge, everybody struggles. You're going to fall off. You're going to have a bad day. Not every day is perfect. We're
Hmm.
all human beings. We all fail at times. But to get back up on your feet, to get up and be like, nope, yeah, yesterday sucked. I missed this or I didn't do that. But today I'm going to change. I'm going to make a difference. And I think that's so important. Can you share something as far as, when you did struggle or you felt like you were falling off any of the events and then getting back at it? Like, what would you get back at? How'd you do that?
Yeah, man. I've, it's probably even just been more recently, just as a single guy. Like sometimes I'll fall off and I'll get into the dating scene and, I'm just out there, genuinely just trying to find someone. And then it turns into like, dating sucks, right? Like I'm just gonna be a single guy forever and just have my fun and do my thing. But, in my values, I don't, that's not the way. So that's one of the areas I've struggled a lot and just generally in my whole life. And it's the biggest one. I mean, everything else I pretty much stay pretty dialed in, right? Like I don't miss on the gym. I don't miss on, work or business or other things. I'm generally, fully intact in every other aspect. It's just that one that I need to, be more aware of and give a little extra attention to make sure that ultimately I get what I want out of life, right? Like I always say that you got to take actions on your objectives to get what you want out of life. And if I'm not dating with intent and I'm not trying to find the right person, I'm not going to get what I want out of life, which ultimately is a family, right?
Well, I think what you're hitting on right now, and it's going to happen for you. God's got a plan, and you have intent. And your intent is now like, hey, I want to date with integrity or quality. Like, I know the qualities I want. And if you're for anybody out there, a younger listener, heck, you don't even need to be a young listener. You could be someone that's divorced. If you're just going to a club and drinking, then guess what? That's probably the only type of person you're going to meet. If you want to meet good people, get involved in the community, get involved with somebody that's doing something with a nonprofit or things that you have passionates about. That's who you need to be involved with. Those are the environments you need to be to meet that. So yeah, having the right person there as a partner and spouse is so important. And God's got a plan for you, brother. I'm sure it's going to happen. It'll come together. And if you're looking in the right spots and you're doing positive things, you're going to meet a woman that's doing positive things. If you're going out in the clubs and that's the only place you're going, well, that's the type of person you're going to meet. So, as we
Right.
grow and mature, I think we learn a lot. And just hearing your story, you've been learning for a long time and been on the road for learning and growth. And you know how that works from the gym. Sometimes you got to put in extra effort and you'll get the gain. So you will do it. So do you do anything with reframing, like changing the thoughts or reframing words like, oh, I can't to how do I or anything like that?
Um, no, I don't really, I've never really played around with anything like that. Or I think my attitude is just always like, what's the problem and why can't we get it done? Like, let's just get it done. Or, um, just the self belief in myself, is always there. So I don't think I really need to ever do that. Um, it's, I struggle from time to time with like feeling just value in myself. I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't really do
No,
any
it
work
does.
with like, kind of what you were talking about there with reframing.
Okay. Because you already have that can do mindset. You believe you set a goal. You're like, hey, I work hard enough. I may not get there tomorrow. I may not get there next week, but damn it, I'm going to get there type deal.
Yeah.
That's what the
Yeah. I mean,
vibe I'm getting.
if I know that if my goals are realistic, then there's really not much that's going to stop me from accomplishing them. Right. Like I'm never going to dunk a basketball. Right. I'm not going to be able to do that. There are certain physical limitations and even intellectual limitations that I know just aren't for me, that I can't just do things. But I know if my goals are realistic or not. And I know that if they are realistic, that, I have, you know, the attitude and the aptitude and the drive to just get it done.
Nice. So when you're working with people, what's the first thing you start to work on with them? Like if you're going to talk or give a coaching thing, like what's your like, hey, this is where we start. What's your start point?
Yeah. I mean, my start point, wherever I can and wherever it makes sense, I like to tell people to start moving with their body, start pressing their body physically. And, that turns into, mentally challenging yourself. Because you start to push through these mental barriers when you start putting your body through certain things. And, that doesn't mean they need to go do an Ironman or go to do a CrossFit class or anything like that. But each and every day, try to push yourself physically, because I think that just generally translates to a stronger mindset and a development of perhaps some mental toughness that didn't exist before. Um, and then just start doing self assessments as to like what your goals look like. You know, you want coaching, but like, what's the end state? Do you want a better marriage? Do you want a better, relationship with your son? Do you want a new job? Like, what are you working toward? And, kind of what's the attitude you need to possess and the skill sets you need to acquire in order to get whatever you want again out of life, right? Because we're taking action. We're taking
Mhm.
action, excuse me, towards our objectives. So what do those skill sets need to look like to reach those objectives and then break through them?
Yeah. I think you got to have purpose and passion. If you don't have
Absolutely.
purpose and passion in your
Hmm.
life,
Yep.
man, it makes life hard, or you're lost, or you're a couch potato and you're just watching Netflix and
Hmm.
you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing or what God's plan is for you. You need to have that passion. And if you don't have it yet, it's okay. You can figure it out. You got to take that time to yourself,
Yeah.
and it can be difficult.
Yeah. And there are certain things you can do that you love that are your passion. Like, right. Like I go play golf. I love to play golf. Right. But purpose, like for me, is what's the impact I can have on other people? And I think that's generally where you're going to find your purpose. And, you know, for a lot of guys, that might be my purpose is to provide for my family. I'm going to put my kids through college. I'm going to, make sure my wife and I are set. We can retire early or whatever the case may be. Right. Your purpose needs to be grounded in the value you provide to other people as opposed to, these self-fulfilling, um, avenues that, ultimately aren't going to fill your soul and provide you with that purpose. Right. I think those are two very different things. And, it's okay to do things that you love and that you enjoy. Um, but, your purpose needs to be, kind of the center of your universe and what it is that you're striving towards. And again, getting what you want out of life. So
Yeah. And that's where I like when people can take their purpose and turn it into a passion. I like what you said, golf, hey, go have fun, go fishing, do whatever. But if you can, like, hey, I like helping people and you get passionate with that purpose, oh
yeah,
man, the sky's the limit. Like, God's going to open doors for you. Like, you're moving, things are
yeah,
happening. Like, there is so much that can happen when you start living with purpose and then you have passion for that purpose. I talk about ownership a lot. One of the analogies I love to use is, everybody says, oh, I got to take ownership. You need to own your power. You need to take ownership. All right. Do people really know what ownership is? They throw that word around, but you have a dog. To be an owner, right? A dog owner and take ownership. What are you doing every day? You're feeding it, you're watering it, you're letting it out, you're cleaning up after it every single day. Do you do that with your goals, your dreams? That's what I'm trying to, like, people wake up. Like, to really be an owner of your life, you need to every day work on it. Now, I'm not
yeah.
saying you got to go psycho, but every day you need to step up and do something. So what do you think with all the stuff going on, you're moving now and whatnot? What is your ownership that you're taking? Where are you going with your life? I'm excited about this.
Yeah, man. It's definitely just a huge, I'm taking risks. I'm chasing after, you know, I'm still not even sure. Like I know I have obviously the podcast going on. I got the book coming out. I'm doing a lot of cool stuff with Nick that we're especially in 2026, we have some really cool stuff taking off. Um, but yeah, no, it's a huge risk to pick up and move from a place I've been my entire life and not necessarily just financial, but it's just risky emotionally and uncomfortable. But I know that by going down there and spending more time with Nick and George and being around guys that I know will make me better and continue to make me better, I know that only good things can come from that. And, you know, I tell everybody else it's important to get out of your comfort zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I have an opportunity to get out of my comfort zone and go do something that perhaps is, a little bit scary for me. But the risk reward factor is something that we all need to embrace when we're doing things that are unfamiliar. And that's where I'm at. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Love it, man.
And
Getting out of the comfort zone, and you're leading
yeah,
through action. Like, people are like, hey, I'm not just preaching it, I'm
hmm
living it. Like you're living the lifestyle, and that's
And
what
and
people.
that's the most important thing when if you're gonna be out there, you're gonna be online, you're gonna be telling people, kinda, not necessarily how they should live, but if you're gonna be offering up advice and, how to enhance certain skill sets, you should probably be doing those things yourself, right? Um, and yeah, man, it's I'm excited for it. I really am. I'm going after it head on and just really excited to see what happens with, again, the podcast, the book, and, those initiatives I have working with Nick going into next year.
That's great. And I tell you right now, you keep saying the book, but I'm going to put it out there. Wired for Action, right? Coming out in November of this year, correct?
Yeah, sir. Veterans Day.
Nice, nice. I launched my book around the same time. I did November
Nice.
23rd was my release date for the asset
Nice.
mindset when I first did it. So
Nice.
same time frame, but that was 2020 COVID times. So
Really?
yeah,
No
yeah.
kidding.
And then a couple years later, Simon and Schuster, never would have imagined it. So this is kind of for you too, to give you hope or just wow, things can change by putting yourself out there. They ended up approaching me and bought the rights to my book, and I sold it to Gallery Books from Simon and Schuster. So you
No kidding.
never know where
No
things could
kidding.
go. Yeah. So
That's outstanding, dude. Good
you're
for
wired
you.
for action. Let's get it out there. Let's share it.
Yeah.
And, it's going to do things and you're going to help people. You already know you are in the podcast, but I'm proud of you, man, for willing to take the risks and be the standard and put yourself out there, because people need that. They need to see other people doing it because a lot of people are scared. And I'm sure you run into that or you see that out in the world. People, oh, I can't, or oh, it's too hard. And you're like, hey,
Yeah.
I've always lived here my entire life. I'm going to uproot and I'm going somewhere else and I'm planting roots and I'm going to make some shit happen.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see you on your journey and how this
Yeah.
goes. And you're going to be in the area. Hit me up. I can take you around, show you some places, or grab lunch with George or Nay or whatever.
Dude,
And
100%. We're definitely gonna have to hang out and get together as soon as I'm down there. 3 weeks from today, man.
yeah, that's really cool, man. So anything else you want to give the audience? Because I know, we got time, only limited time for both of us. We're busy guys. What would
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like
no,
the audience to know about Denny and what he's doing? Or you want to talk about the book a little more, Wired for Action, what it is?
yeah, man. I
Mike's
just want to
yours.
first off, yeah, no, I just want to first off just say thanks for having me, man. This has been a pretty cool talk. You asked questions that I don't think I've had before that I liked. So I really appreciate you having me on. And embracing my endeavors as well. Be the Standard podcast. If you guys want to check me out there, I put out content pretty much every week, but I appreciate any support there. And then again, the book coming out November 11th, Veterans Day, Wired for Action. Uh, tell you my entire life story, man, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the importance of taking action on your objectives to get what you want out of life. So very appreciative again for having me on, and don't forget Team Machine as well. Uh, I love those guys. I love my team, and excited to make that move to Nashville. Uh, to be around guys like yourself, man. Super excited.
That's great. Fantastic. I can't wait to see you in person. And like I say, number one, take ownership of your life. You're your greatest asset. Number two, surround yourself with good people in positive environments. You're doing it. And then number three, you be an asset to others and you're going to change your life. You can change the world. Who knows what you can do? The limits are just sky high. And of course, thank you for being here today. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share. It costs nothing to hit a like, and it really helps us out, spread some positivity in the world. And more than anything, don't forget, own your power.